This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about GME. Obviously, it's in the spotlight these days. I'm going to show you where I think some outstanding trades have taken place over the course of the last 6 to 9 months. Right now, I think it's at a stage where you got to be really careful. The volatility has skyrocketed, and I think that's really the main reason why some of these firms are restricting trading. They have to have capital requirements for massive movements like that, and it puts them at risk if there's a bunch of people trading it. So I thought I would just show you some of the things related to what I try and teach on this channel using multiple timeframes, and show where if you weren't paying any attention to Reddit or anything like that, I think you could have identified some pretty good trades in this stock over the course of the last year. So let's just look at let's go ahead and look at this this chart. So I've got a monthly here, a weekly, daily, and an hourly. What I've done though is I've gone back in time, and I'm showing this is back in September, middle of September of last year. And I wanted to just show, in fact, I'm going to expand this chart. So now, oops, hold on. Now I'm looking at a weekly chart only, and you can see the big downtrend that had been in place. And then it finally found support in middle of 2019 and started to work sideways. And during that period, you had a really high ADX at the bottom, but then it started to really drop off. And when the price came down and tested this low, ADX could barely get to 25. So that was sort of a sign that this trend, this downtrend, this ferocious downtrend to the downside looked like it was pretty much over. And then you had a low ADX period where price just went sideways. And if you notice, the size of the bars were pretty big. And then they started to drop off, and they got really, really quiet through this period here. And whenever we see low volatility and low trend strength, that's when you want to perk your ears up. We want to get in on moves with low volatility and low trend strength. Actually, we want to be following stocks that have that criteria, and then look for signs that the volatility is starting to expand and that we're starting to see some trend strength. And so this is sort of the condition, the starting point, where we have the higher time frame, the weekly, working sideways and getting really quiet and having the low ADX. But notice how the green DI is above the red. So I think that is pretty interesting. If we go and look at, now I'm going to pull up the daily chart at that same time. So this is the sideways period on the weekly, and we've been working sideways, and it was really quiet. And then what I'm looking for on the lower time frame in this situation, now I could buy this breakout down here at 4 or 5, but when I know I have low ADX on 2 consecutive time frames, it's not a bad idea to let the lower time frame start to show some strength like this, and then buy the first pullback to the 18. So in this case, that entry would have been on September 11th, 2020. And it was breaking out of the base. You had really good ADX strength. We knew we have low ADX on the weekly, and you have back-to-back time frames, and the lower time frame is telling you that the volatility and the trend strength is starting to improve. You might have even waited for this earnings announcement. You got hit and actually gave you a setup. If you use the daily down with the hourly, it would have given you the 2 time frame pattern to get you in. And then obviously have seen some pretty significant moves. Now, each one of these pullbacks, if I bring up the hourly chart, I'm not going to spend the time on it, but because I do this a lot in a lot of these videos, but go back, put the daily on the right. If your software allows you to do it, put the daily on the right, put the hourly on the left, and go back and look at these periods. There were some really good 2 time frame trades where you could have gotten in with low risk and made pretty good money on these rallies. These are pretty significant percentage moves. And then if you notice, we actually got a long enough correction on the daily chart that this would have been a weekly daily setup and a pretty nice entry. And then actually before this last move, we had one more pullback on the daily back to a rising 18. Notice the rising 18 above a rising 40, and we pulled back into the zone. And then again, if we look at the hourly chart, you'd see that you're getting a 2 time frame entry. With all the volatility, maybe you had to take 2 stabs at it. Maybe you do one and lose, and then you get in on the next one and you make a big win. I would be very reluctant to be trading. Notice the difference in the size of the bars. I talk about this in a lot of my videos. Be really careful when the size of the bars start to expand like this. It's higher risk. You need to buy pullbacks in this. I prefer to see it quiet down. Obviously very overbought. I think there's a tremendous amount of risk in this just based on the circumstances of what's causing this. So just be careful. But I thought it was worthwhile going back and seeing, if you were just doing your business and this was one of the stocks you were watching, there were several opportunities over the last year and you would have been in for this big move. The way I would do it, I would have probably been scaling out at 24 and then 28, 32, and maybe I'd have one little piece left. But the whole idea here is be consistent with what you're doing, be disciplined, have the patience to wait for good patterns. Don't go chasing something based on news-oriented stuff. It's a fast way to lose money. All right, take care.